Controversy has erupted over Nigeria's newly signed tax reform laws. Many Nigerians believe the tax laws were secretly altered after approval. Taiwo Oyedele, chairman of the Presidential Tax Reform Committee, responds. He urges Nigerians to remain calm and avoid spreading unverified claims. Oyedele says lawmakers must be allowed to investigate the allegations. Only the National Assembly can confirm if changes were made. He clarifies that he never said the gazetted laws were fake. Some documents circulating online are not official legislative records. Oyedele says some media reports misunderstood his earlier statements. Speculation should not replace proper legislative investigation. The tax reform aims to simplify taxes and broaden Nigeria's tax base. Nigerians are urged to wait for official findings before drawing conclusions. Transparency, due process, and facts must guide tax reform discussions. To hear from the horse's mouth and understand better, watch the video in question.
Chairman, Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, has declared the controversial tax regulations currently in circulation as fake. There have been allegations that the reform documents recently signed by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu into law were different from what the National Assembly had passed. But Oyedele said any allegations over alterations of the original tax laws passed by the National Assembly could only be established if both the gazetted documents are compared with the harmonized version of the Senate and House of Representatives. Joining us on this show to discuss the alleged multiple versions of the tax laws is Taiwo Oyedele, Chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. Good morning, Mr. Oyedele, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Very good. Now, you dealt with one controversy before when some governors kicked against the tax laws or the tax reform as proposed. You won that battle. Now another storm has come, which is about the legitimacy of the tax laws as signed and gazetted by the federal government of Nigeria. Now I see you have a document in front of you. Maybe you should have come with two. The harmonized gazetted copy and the other one, which is the one, that is causing controversy. But I would like you to speak directly to the issues. Now, Section 3, 39, 41, 4, 58, and 60. Those were the contentious sections, which we're told had been tampered with to give more powers to the executive arm of government, to remove the authority of the High Court, and then to breach the trust and process in terms of enactment. So specifically, but I hear you are saying, no, there's a lot of misinformation out there and there is no discrepancy. Since you have the document, I have the things that they are saying, so we can just compare and contrast and see. So we're asking you to give us empirical facts that what is gazetted is authentic.
Thank you very much once again, and good morning. So first thing is, in your opening comment,
yes,
and I've seen that quite a bit in the past couple of days, that I said that the regulation in circulation is fake. So that's not what I said.
Okay.
What I said, because I was also granting an interview, and the reporter displayed a section of the law in the Gazette, and then the similar section in quotes in the harmonized version by the National Assembly, and was asking me whether that was indeed an alteration. And before then, I'd seen these reports about all these sections that they claim were altered substantially. And the report was giving the impression that this was a report of the House of Representatives Committee investigating the matter. So I saw one of the sections, which I'm going to show you now, and I knew that was not in the Gazette, and they claim it was in the Gazette. So I called one of the lawmakers in the committee. And I said, just to clarify to you, your reports, you reference something that does not exist. And the guy said they haven't even met. So apparently, some people decided to write what alterations they thought were made, and it didn't come from the committee investigating it. Some people have done graphic design on top of it. So my response was, I don't think that it would be productive to start discussing alleged alterations that we don't know where it came from, and certainly not from the House committee. So, and then some people reported it as me saying that the Gazette in circulation was fake. That's not what I said. Now, number 2 issue is those things that they listed, and one of it I can show you here, is about saying that you have to pay a deposit of 20% if you want to go to appeal. And that's under the Nigeria Tax Administration Acts, Section 41, subsection 8. That's what they've been quoting. Yes, and I can just give to Rufai. So this is the Nigeria Tax Administration Act, Section 41, sub 8. If you read it, you'll not find it there. So my view is we should allow the lawmakers do their investigation and come up with what they consider to be an alteration that is substantial, and then they make the decision as to what to do subsequently, rather than trying to speculate and discussing things that we're not even sure where those things came from. You also need to ask and say, who will benefit from some of those things that they have said. For example, they said that one of the alterations they claim is the taxman says, I can arrest you using law enforcement agents. But that power is not even new. That power is in the current law. The taxman has the power to investigate, and when the taxman needs help, he can call on help from, including the police. So I don't want to make any analysis of whether it's right or wrong, because I'm not trying to justify what anybody did. If indeed those things happened, I'm just saying let's wait for the investigation to establish what indeed happened.
Okay. You've quoted 41 sub 8.
Yes.
How about 39 sub 3, which says there will be computation in US dollars, Rufai, 39 sub 3. And also 60 sub 1, which removes the powers of the High Court in terms of intervention. 60 sub 1, 39 sub 3.
Let me explain those two, even though I'll still prefer that we don't spend too much time on the list that we don't know where it came from.
Those are the main issues.
Yes. So on the first one about USD, so there's the Petroleum Industry Act.
Yes, it says in case any return under acts relating to petroleum, all competitions relating to tax and payment shall be in US dollars.
Yes.
And they are saying it was not there.
Yes,
in the original.
I can explain that. Explain that.
Yeah.
So the PIA requires that oil companies do their financial statement in USD. So imagine you are Exxon or Total.
Sub 1.
60 sub 1.
Right? Imagine you are any of these oil companies. You sell to customers in Europe, you sell to UK, US. So how do you prepare your financial statement with multiple currencies? And how do you determine the profit of each currency to be able to pay tax? So that's not something that I'm familiar with, right? In practice, the FRS had always, and the oil companies have always prepared their financial statement in USD and pay their taxes in USD. So whether that's substantial, whether that was altered, I'll say let's wait for the findings. So the other one about the power of the court, so this is why I said sometimes also on the surface, something may appear substantial until you analyze it further. So what happens is before you can even sell the asset of a taxpayer, you have to seize the asset first and foremost. So in this new tax law, the process before you can take over my assets involves the court. So I'll say to you, Dr. Abati, you should have paid 10 million naira you haven't paid. You have 30 days to object. We call it objection. The taxman looks at your analysis and submission and say, well, I've revised it. That process goes back and forth until the taxman is tired. He then says, I refuse to amend. It's called notice of refusal to amend. And that triggers an appeal process. You go through tax appeal tribunal. If you don't like the outcome, High Court. You don't like the outcome, Court of Appeal. You don't like the outcome, you go to the Supreme Court. That's when that tax is final and conclusive. That's when the taxman can come to you. We call it discrepancies. You can take your vehicle, you can take anything, but if it's to do with real property.
The power of garnishing.
Exactly. So it's possible that what somebody has done is pick the power in one place and the other and put them together. So you cannot take over the asset without the court. If you already have the court permission to take over the asset, and then this law says you keep it for 14 days and see whether the person pays, after which it can now be sold.
So, but let me read.
And that power, yes, you can read it.
Let me read it. So the relevant tax authority may, without an order of the High Court, and by notice in writing, appoint any person to be the agent of the taxable person where any tax has become due and payable and the taxable person has refused or failed to pay. The agent appointed is in possession or is expected to be in possession of the monies, funds, and assets of the taxable person. Two of this is the agent appointed under subsection 1 shall be required to pay any tax payable to the taxable person from any money, funds, or assets of the person which may be held by the agent of that person. So what I think the bone of contention is without an order of the High Court.
Yeah, so the point I'm making is, before you get to this point, we call this the power of substitution. So what that means is, you're owing government, you haven't paid, I'll go to someone who has money belonging to you and ask them to pay me the money belonging to you. Before you get to this power of substitution, that tax liability must be final and conclusive. So it can't be the taxman just waking up and say, Rufai is owing us 2 million naira. Bank, give us the 2 million naira. No. You have to go through that process that involves stages of the courts to finally establish that that tax is indeed due and payable. Before you can now say, I give you notice to pay within 30 days. You refuse. I write to banks. Do you have this guy's account? Does he have money inside? So that process and that provision is in the current law. It's in this current law that we have.
Right, that they can actually take money from their bank accounts.
No, I'm saying that power, first and foremost, is in the current law, right? But before you can get there, see the process you have to go through now.
No, but in the end...
In the end, it's possible. It happens everywhere in the world.
Because you had gone ahead
in
one of your interventions saying that nobody can take money from your bank account. So what you are saying invariably is that the taxman can actually take money from your bank account when you go through this process, right?
So let me clarify it, because I know the headline tomorrow will not be that I say they can take money from a bank account. We're careful not to have a run on banks. I'm saying
journalists.
No. I'm not even. It may not even be you. What we have seen, the interview I granted was on channels. The guys that said I said this was fake wasn't channels. People pick those things and they write whatever they like. So we're saying this power of substitution is in the current law we operate. It has always been.
That they can take money from the bank.
The same way they can sell your house. The same way they can
sell your car.
So they can take
more money.
Wait, before they get to that point, is a very elaborate process. You will not go through that process to collect 1 million naira tax. It's not worthwhile. So which means the people they are trying to create the fear in their hearts are not going to ever have to worry about this provision.
But in the end,
it's there. It's there.
End, they can take money from your bank account.
It is possible to take money when you've gone through the court process.
Let me play the devil's advocate. Number one, taxation. There are also international transactions involved. When you were talking about US dollars, there's also something they call transfer pricing. Something like that, which means that our regime is not isolated. It's international, and the US dollar is the international currency that most countries use. The second part is that we have this habit of reading any piece of legislation in isolation. And then people who want to criticize a particular piece of legislation, they will just take one portion. They will take one phrase somewhere in the law and they will run with it ignorantly. Whereas when you read a piece of legislation, you have to read it as a whole, because certain sections may relate to the other.
Absolutely.
I think that may be the problem here. But
the third point... I like the point you've made, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So there's a provision here that talks about what is it that government can ask you to pay tax on as an individual. So there is one subsection there that says pension is taxable. And people took that and ran with it to say they want to start taxing pensioners. Meanwhile, all they needed to do was continue reading, and you now see where pension under the Nigeria Pension Reform Act is exempted. So why was the law drafted like that? I can be an expatriate in Nigeria, earning dollars, nothing wrong with that, and be doing pension contribution to my home country. That money is not even here available for Nigeria to invest. We don't want to give them tax exemption on that. They should get the exemption in their country. So first you have to tax pension generally, and then take out the part of pension you don't want to tax. So you're right. People should not take one section and run with it.
It's a basic principle
in law.
I have one more point to make.
One more point.
Which is that this copy, you are not going with it.
I will even give you, because I wanted to keep it so that when people come and you say, can you tell us what section of the law?
And then not just one copy. I hope you have more copies.
I have like 5 in my car.
Just give us the copies so that.
That has been in contention as well. I know you to just clarify, have you seen the harmonized bill yourself?
I haven't.
To be able to compare with the gazetted copy and clarify or confirm whether the work that you have put a lot of effort in and then passed by the National Assembly was tampered with. Because even in the sense of your integrity and the level of work that you've done, we saw you move around the country trying to build trust. And that's my next question to you, which is the Daily Trust newspaper reports that there's a crisis, shall I say? Crisis of legitimacy, legitimacy crisis with regards to the tax laws. And I say this because I know how much work you and your team put into building trust, breaking it down, answering questions. So what would you do now? It almost seems like all that work is being eroded by this scandal. How would you hope to manage that and then rebuild trust and confidence in the people? Because one of the reasons why people would say they don't want to pay tax is a lack of trust in the process, in the integrity of the people managing the process. How do you hope to build this back? And just also respond to the question around, you say you didn't see the harmonized bill. Have you seen it?
I'll explain.
Okay.
So thanks a lot, Ayo. So, of course, you would expect...
This is my copy.
That's okay. I'll get the other one for Dr. Abati and Ayo. So we followed everything all through, because that's the job, I agreed to do. With my team, if they had a version of House of Rep, we went through. Senate, we went through. Harmonize, we went through. But the reason why I'll say to you that I don't have the harmonize is it's not official, because the official one is supposed to be published in their journal. So which means, and this happened many times, they'll say, this is a copy. As I'm going through halfway, they say, sorry, there's an updated version. So all of it is unofficial. So before Mr. President signed, Ministry of Justice, they sent it through Ministry of Justice and they said, Taiwo, have a look. And we looked. Each time we're looking at that, we were prioritizing the policy objectives. Harmonization, exempting poor people. Once I have a list, for every version, I have analysis of what was there, what has changed. All of that is in our record. But I think that, and this is not finger pointing, I think that as part of, they say it's like the sister's wife. To be suspected is almost as bad as to be convicted. If we publish the harmonized version, don't you even think that whoever wants to do this will think twice? But because it's not published now, we're struggling. So I have the gazetted one. I don't have the official harmonized version. Now,
okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Now, to the question of credibility of the reform and all of that, it's legitimacy. Yeah, I think that's the language. I think it's unfortunate that it's happening because this is one reform I can say categorically is here to help the Nigerian people. I also believe that whenever we have a crisis, we should not waste the crisis. I know for certain that process can be better. You need to see some sleepless nights where I'm going through hard copies, flipping. There are countries where they do these things and you don't have these kind of issues. So my own view is that whatever the outcome may be ultimately, let us use this as an opportunity to fix and improve that process so we don't even have this kind of allegations. Because, the call for postponements let's suspend, let's postpone.
A number of people have, NBA have called for it.
Yes.
Atiku Abubakar, no, just because he was talking about postponement. Sorry if I come. NBA has called for it. Atiku Abubakar has called for it. A number of people have said, since it's so contentious, why don't we postpone it so that people have, that's part of regaining the trust. I'd like to get your thoughts on that, because how important is it to postpone or not to postpone it for January 1st? And then very importantly, I want you to speak about those recommendations to improve the process, because we don't want to be on this table again discussing an issue like this in the future. Since you've been through the process, what are some of the gaps that you've noticed that we can do to improve this process to avoid issues like this?
Yeah, awesome. So the first one is, suspension, put on hold. What does it even mean? So first and foremost, some of the people that are calling for suspension have not articulated who is supposed to do the suspension. The president has no powers. Executive has no powers here to suspend. That's the first point. The second point, Rufai, if you don't mind, is that these are 4 tax laws. 2 of them commenced immediately. So this is Nigerian Revenue Service. Look at the commencement date. It's already commenced. So this law repealed the FRS Act. We no longer have FRS. We now have NRS. Now, how do you suspend this? Does it mean we'll no longer have any revenue service? Is there a risk that somebody will say, for the past 6 months, there has been an illegal FRS? All the money we paid to them, we should collect back. I feel like if we wait for the outcome of that review, whatever that is, my personal view, and I may be wrong, once you establish what is wrong, then that part of the alteration was never part of the law, which means the law still goes ahead and you deal with what was wrong with the alteration, and whoever was responsible, should face the consequences. That's my own view. I think in most countries generally, when it comes to tax matters, the overriding public interest is, if you come in the way of revenue generation, if you suspend FRS for 1 month alone, that's crisis. So the second point about what should we do to improve the process, I think automation will help a lot at every stage, because that's transparency. That's what we did in our committee. Before we submitted the bills, we had a process that ensured the integrity of that document. That's why you didn't see any multiple versions.
From my deduction, you have actually seen the harmonized copy, because you went through the harmonized copy before you went to the president.
Yes. I said I didn't see the official one.
No, but you have a copy of that harmonized copy you saw for yourself?
No. So the what I'll call the harmonized copy I saw was what I got from Ministry of Justice.
Yeah, so do you have a copy of what you got from
Of course I do.
Have you checked it with this one?
I've checked. In fact, that was something I did before this even came out. I did that every single time.
So can we have that copy? Does it align everything?
No, I don't. Why should I give you the copy? See,
no. You know why?
Why?
If not because of this scandal, I wouldn't ask you this question.
Yes, I know.
So you have the harmonized copy. So the fact that you say you've not seen the harmonized copy...
I want you to clarify, because I don't want to be misquoted, right?
No, it's fine. But
so as far as I'm concerned, the harmonized copy of the National Assembly is whatever they publish.
No, it's fine, but you have the harmonized copy because the Ministry of Justice gave it to you to look through it. So you have the copy as we speak.
I have the copy from the Ministry of Justice that was going to the president.
Yeah, so that's still the harmonized copy. That's what went to the president, right? And you've done a mismatch of both what is here and what is there. So you know the answers to what we're looking for as we speak.
Which is?
Yeah, you've compared and contrast. You have both copies.
Yeah, so you know when we
and
did
if
that,
for the sake of integrity, I will have said, can you go ahead, the harmonized copy your secretariat has, like the presidential committee on this, can you go ahead and publish it so that we get out of this quagmire? Because waiting for the House of Reps will take a while. These guys will go on Christmas break at some point. This thing will snowball into the new year. And there's going to be the doubt in the minds of people out there. They're not going to trust you. So in the interest, you have what we are looking for. We've been able to establish that. It's best you bring it up. Secondly, in your gazetted copy, that you call your copy, what were the threshold for businesses and the threshold for individuals before the bank can alert and file a return on the individual? What were the threshold?
Okay, so still on your first point, and this is what I want to try and avoid, not to point fingers at anyone. If I got something from the Ministry of Justice, I can't put it out and say this was a harmonized copy. The National Assembly didn't give it to me directly, right? But if you see what I mean.
I see what you mean, but you have it. So you're saying you've not seen the harmonized copy knock that, scratch that. You've seen the harmonized copy. You have it. You have the solution to our conundrum as we speak today.
Do you think anything could be wrong between the National Assembly and Ministry of Justice?
No, I don't think so. Because if the National Assembly handed it to the Ministry of Justice and say you be the last arbiter to vet before it gets to the presidency, then it's all cleared from there. So you have what to save all of us. But I've just asked you a question now as we wrap up because there's no time and I'll have wanted to press you further on this. What was the threshold for businesses, on your final copy, this gazetted copy that the president signed? What was the threshold for businesses?
Yeah, it's the 25 million a quarter, and then for businesses, 100 million a quarter.
Was that what the National Assembly accepted?
That's what I saw, which is why I'm saying to you that I'm not going to say...
No, so that's what you saw.
That's what I saw.
The harmonized copy that you read.
Yes.
25
and 100.
100 million.
Because when the Gazette, if you remember, and that's some of the things I've put out, there was a first version of the Gazette that was not authorized for release. Those were the things we were going through again. And there were many corrections they made, including small businesses. We're already 100. We saw 50. Say, make it back to 100. Reduction of CIT rate for corporate, large firms. We managed to get 25% down from 30. We didn't see it in the first Gazette. We said, you need to correct it. So all of those things that we observed, we gave the feedback and the corrections were done.
So can you confirm to me
one
thing? That the harmonized copy you got for the Ministry of Justice and you vetted is what is here?
Before we go.
Yes.
Is what is here?
Yes.
Before we go.
Thank you.
Now, we should be talking about the way forward. Now, a law is a living document. It can be amended. Now, this same law that they are arguing about, Ekiti State has domesticated it. Lagos State has
had
said...
a summit yesterday.
And said, look, this is a law that will benefit the state. So we already have a living document. The process is that if you disagree, whoever disagrees can go back to the National Assembly and say these sections that were considered defective should be again amended. And the test of it will all see. Even when the implementation begins, even private members can still raise objections. So I think that all of this is just nitpicking. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. Because even for us as well,
I don't
we
think
even
it's nitpicking. I think the integrity of the state...
No, I've just stated a basic principle about legislative process.
As we wrap up,
and that is the way it is.
The tax agreement with France that they wrote an FOI form to be able to get. In the spirit of integrity, don't you think the FRS should release that document to the public, or the NRS should release the document of the MOU they had with France?
Yeah, I don't want to speak for the FRS, but I can tell you what I know.
What do you know?
Which is that whole MOU was actually something we initiated.
Okay, so you know about what is there.
As part of this tax reform, we understudied many countries. We went to the ambassadors, can you do a link, Zoom meeting, HMRC. We learned from all of them. France in particular had done so well in harmonization. They decided to say, let's document what you asked us to do. And this is really about, because for us, my committee is temporary. We say, go to the institutions, and they went to FRS, training, experience sharing, and then people say that they're connecting to data. Who is that stupid to connect?
So it doesn't have any data connection?
Nothing about data. Nobody would have
thought. It's just partnerships.
The IT for filing returns in Nigeria was developed by Nigeria. It's called Tax Promas. I even have the view that SAP, for example, that HMRC uses and South Africa, that's a German technology. It's even more superior.
To wrap up, so you believe NRS should release that?
No, I will not speak for the FRS or NRS. I don't want to speak for them.
Thank you so much, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. I think you have clarified some grey areas and given more context to the issue on ground. As you've mentioned, we look forward to that investigation being followed through. I believe the onus is on the National Assembly to provide the harmonized copy since it came from there. Thank you so much for your time with us this morning.
Stay informed. Follow for clear explanations on Nigeria's tax reforms.